Maya Angelou changed my life. As a young African American girl growing up in the 60s, to be able to read about her, I think I first read I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings when I was in junior high, maybe. That was when I first read it. And interestingly enough, I didn't think about it till years later that the title of it, A Bird That's Caged but Singing Anyway. And it sort of became a philosophy of life for me.
Maya Angelou was a poet, civil rights activist, author, actress, screenwriter, and dancer, to name a few of her many skills. She was born on the brink of the Great Depression, she fought during the Civil Rights Movement, and she was the United States' second inaugural poet. Her legacy and leadership lie not only in the books we read and the movies we watch, but the philosophy we live by. Maya Angelou was born as Marguerite Johnson in St. Louis, Missouri, but when she was 4, she and her brother Bailey were sent to Stamps, Arkansas, to live with their grandmother during the Great Depression. Maya lived happily there for a few years until she and Bailey were moved again, this time to go live with their mother. Maya Angelou believed her mother, Vivian Baxter, was the most beautiful woman in the world. The two spent a brief amount of time together until a tragedy ripped the little family apart.
When I was 7.5, I was raped. The rapist was let out of jail and was found dead that night, and the police suggested that the rapist had been kicked to death. I was 7.5. I thought that I had caused the man's death because I had spoken his name. That was my 7.5-year-old logic. So I stopped talking for 5 years.
Due to the horror and fear of this event and its aftermath, Maya refused to speak to anyone other than her brother Bailey, and eventually, they were sent back to Stamps. This event was one of the first major transitions in Maya's life, but it would not be the last. After spending a few more soundless years in Stamps with her grandmother, a friend helped Maya learn to speak again by insisting that she read aloud books like Beowulf and Oliver Twist. Through the words and poems of influential writers, eventually Maya found her own voice, a voice that would one day move the world. Despite the terror of rape and racism she experienced as a child, Maya Angelou became strong, with a voice powerful enough to speak not only for African American women, but all women. And her voice helped others who had gone through the same things she had to become strong too. In the early 1940s, Maya Angelou was sent to San Francisco to live with her mother, and that same voice began to be heard. In San Francisco, Maya Angelou, at the age of 16, decided she needed a job. Maya decided that she wanted to be a streetcar conductor and sail down San Francisco streets with a money changer at her belt. Though there were no African American streetcar conductors at the time, Maya's mother encouraged her to try to become one anyway. After a few weeks of persistence, Maya Angelou got the job and became San Francisco's first African American streetcar conductor in 1944. Even in her teen years, Maya Angelou was leading the cause for African American rights. Over the next 20 years, Maya Angelou danced, sang, and performed, becoming famous all over the country as Miss Calypso. Then, in the early 1960s, on a visit to Egypt, Maya Angelou met and fell in love with a civil rights activist. In Egypt, she worked as a journalist for the Arab Observer as the only female in the office, and her role as a leader in the civil rights movement began. Upon returning to America, Maya Angelou persistently rallied for change. After listening to Martin Luther King Jr. give a speech at a local church in Harlem, Maya helped organize a fundraiser for Dr. King's cause. The fundraiser was such a success, Maya Angelou was immediately asked to join a group of activists close to Dr. King, and she accepted. In this role, she became a leader and a voice for the civil rights movement by organizing events and planning speeches for Dr. King so that he could reach as many people as possible. Though she led on the sidelines, Maya Angelou made a large impact on the civil rights movement and was undoubtedly a strong leader for Dr. King's cause. But Maya Angelou was not just a friend of Martin Luther King Jr. when it comes to civil rights, and Dr. Yolanda Moses, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Excellence, finds the unlikely political friendships Maya Angelou made to be very powerful.
She was a friend of both Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, and if you know that history, they're on two opposite ends of the political spectrum, and they both loved her.
Maya Angelou continues to lead through her legacy, and she left a legacy that will live on through the years, decades, and even centuries. Maya Angelou produced plays and movies, books and poems, songs and dances. She wrote 7 autobiographies, including I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, which was a New York Times bestseller for 2 years straight. Despite the fact that it is considered an American classic, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings remains one of the most frequently banned books for its depictions of sexuality, rape, and discrimination. When it was first published, and still today, many find Maya Angelou's honest tale to be disturbing and graphic. But to many others, it is this book's utter and unapologetic truth and its portrayal of triumph despite hardship that give it its power. This is how Maya Angelou leads today, by helping people to gain strength and confidence, by empowering them. Through this book and through all of her works, Maya Angelou left a living legacy, an intangible philosophy, and a breathing ideology that exist within many men, women, and children who read her words. And some of her most inspiring words come from her poem Phenomenal Woman, a poem that affected women both young and old across countries and cultures.
Many people wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. When I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say, it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenally.
Everybody goes through a period where you're just feeling like, oh, life is tough, and especially as a woman and trying to compete in the world. Well, you pull up her poem about being a phenomenal woman, and it's no way that you feel that you're anything less. And for that alone, I salute her.
Maya Angelou's words do not just affect a single generation either. They universally span across the eras and will continue to do so.
There's the baby boomers like me, there's the Generation X people who know her, there are the millennials who know her, and I think because of her writing and because she is so well read in introductory writing classes and introductory English classes, that she's going to continue to be a, how should I say it, an American icon, an American legacy.
She was comfortable in every last inch of her glorious brown skin. But for Dr. Angelou, her own transition was never enough. You see, she didn't just want to be phenomenal herself. She wanted all of us to be phenomenal right alongside her.
I've learned grace from her. I was, pretty mouthy as a kid and was always, getting in trouble and stuff. But, you learn over time there are ways to be strong and to stand your ground without jumping up and down and screaming. And I learned that also from her, grace under fire. She's sort of the epitome of that.
There's an African American song, 19th century, which is so great. It says, when it looked like the sun wasn't gonna shine anymore, God put a rainbow in the clouds. Imagine. And I've had so many rainbows in my clouds.
Maya Angelou was a phenomenal woman. Her words sound and then resound in the hearts and minds of most everyone who hears them. Her leadership, her life, her legacy will remain forever with us. Maya Angelou's words will perhaps inspire us to become phenomenal people too. In that way, her leadership and legacy will truly live on.